afternoon and welcome to the Our City News Show, where we bring you the latest news and updates for today's edition. I am your anchor, Michaela Miller. Today we touch base on the coronavirus pandemic and its ongoing occurrence around the world. And now for your headlines. Grand Parade informal traders still haven't resumed trading despite a court victory against the city of Cape Town. Bishop Lavis Action Community says that schools in the area aren't ready to reopen despite the WCED says. World Health Organization's leader Dr. Michael Ryan addresses the issue of the South moving to more relaxed levels of the lockdown. As we enter day 2 of the level 3 lockdown, the current number of confirmed COVID-19 cases stands at 34,357 with 17,291 recoveries and 705 deaths. The Western Cape has 22,567 cases, 11,431 recoveries and 525 deaths. Citizens believe in Health Minister Zweli Mkhize more than other ministers and trust President Cyril Ramaphosa to lead the country during the pandemic, although they would like to hear from him more frequently. A recent survey by Ask Africa measured trust levels in trade and industry. Minister Ibrahim Patel, Police Minister Bheki Cele, and Copter Minister Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, who recorded the highest level of distrust. Most participants were worried about food security, with 1 in 4 saying this was their biggest concern. The Health and Allied Workers Union, NIHAWU, has appealed to the Western Cape Health Department after another hospital staff member died of COVID-19. This was the 4th staff member to die from the virus at Tygerberg Hospital. The porter fell ill at work 2 weeks ago and was admitted to Mitchells Plain Hospital. At the same time, 7 care workers at Evergreen Care Centre in Muizenberg have tested positive for the coronavirus. The Western Cape government believes COVID-19 will peak at the start of July. Informal traders operating at the Grand Parade have won a court order against the city of Cape Town, allowing them to sell essential goods under level 3 lockdown, but trading hasn't resumed. This was due to the city and the Legal Resources Centre, which is representing the traders, failing to reach agreement on operational conditions. We reached out to Tide in Africa and the city of Cape Town, but they failed to comment or clarify the issues.
Grand Parade Traders Association, amongst other trading associations, took the city of Cape Town to court to interdict them trading under level 3 lockdown.
I'm started here in the apartheid structure. I started here 40 years ago. What fighting this same thing what happened today. And I'm devastated and I can burst out of crying what the city did. And the city allows certain traders to be here because they sow color and they give them better opportunities in the parade. And we fought for this. For the past 10 years, we are fighting for the same thing what we are doing today. So our lease areas is there for almost 25 years. We all of us, the different organizations, and we stand as united. Together we stand. An injury to one is an injury to all, and all of us, and we've been here. So why is the city want to remove us from the structure markets? We all have been here by the bus terminus and Nova and the other organizations. Now the city wants to remove us from our lease area to chuck us in the middle here, so to cramp up here. So why they allow that? So we can't accept this by the city.
The Legal Resource Centre, which is representing this Traders Association, has been in talks and negotiations with the City of Cape Town for the traders to trade.
But what I see today In my 43 years, it is very, very sad. We have won the case by the human rights. We're supposed to go and trade, but Mr. Africa has given these securities instruction not to allow nobody to come inside. So we stood. They promised us they're going to give us a better life, and we want that better life now, not tomorrow, today. And I want our president to hear this, what is going on in this parade. How we black people are marginalized. Up till today, there's no peace. They send the law enforcement to come and... do you know how many times they took my stuff? 5 times, in more than 7,000 rand at the sun. I am 73. Did they give it back to me? No.
The Grand Parade traders say that they have lost a lot of income during a lockdown, and all they want to do is trade and put some food on the table for their families.
Siyasaxelelwa into yoba kungekabiyo lockdown ba kukho into enjena ngoku ivirus enjena, so isithi yabe imakhile apha ngeziyelo line yathi sizawuma apha ukuma kwethu apha kusekho le nto yale corona emva koko bazasixelela uba sizawuthini. Asayivuma saqonda uba it's the plan they planned it before years ago ebekudala beyilwa nathi into yoba masizoma apha singafuni because apha sixinene uconjuncted, so asizukwazi ukwenza neyiphi imove. Kanti xa usenza ibhizinesi funeka uyibone yonke into oyenzayo. Awunokwenza ibhizinesi ku-2 meter uhambe uyostoka ngemali ezinkulu ustokele into yoba uzawuba seyehokini encinci. It doesn't work like that. Nophefumla nehygiene ayikho. Sayijonga le nto bathi kuthi kuzawuphuma amakhadi bazasenzela ipermit. Asali we can go under ipermit. Into esingayifuniyo zii-size abasinika zona, unumber 1. Unumber 2, yindawo abasisilekthela yona. Bathi ngoku le ndawo basibeka kuyo incinci kukho le corona, sizawukwazi njani into kokubana singosulelani xa sizobekwa apha nalapha. Sistendi somntu esimove. Move guys please. Sistendi somntu. Sesinye esiya.
The traders of Grand Parade wait for an outcome that is happening right now with the Legal Resource Centre and the City of Cape Town. They're looking for a way forward and a direction to put food on the table. I am Octavian Jovu reporting for Our City News, Cape Town.
Consumers are set to queue at fuel stations on Tuesday evening ahead of a midnight petrol increase. The Energy Department said petrol would increase by R1.18 a litre, while diesel is set to rise by 22 cents. After months of petrol decreases, the price of Brent crude oil is recovering, which has caused cost increases. A family of 4 was killed in a devastating blaze in Kalkfontein in the early hours of this morning. The city's fire and rescue services, Jermaine Cardelser, had this to say.
A family died in a devastating blaze in Kalkfontein in the early hours of this morning, Tuesday, June the 2nd. A man, woman and 2 girls aged 2 and 10 years old were trapped in the informal structure when the city's fire and rescue service arrived on scene. They had been alerted to the fire in Elizabeth Street at about 3:10 this morning. Despite the valiant efforts of fire crews to contain the blaze to a single structure, the man, woman and their 2 daughters could not be saved. The fire was extinguished at 5 minutes to 4 and the scene was handed over to the South African Police Services Forensic Department.
We are now taking a short break. We'll be back with more right after this. Welcome back. You're still tuned into Channel 263 on DSTV and the Tuesday edition of the Our City COVID-19 show on Cape Town TV. The Bishop Lavis Action Community says schools in the area aren't ready to reopen, despite what the WCED says. Helga Danchandauer spoke to the education officer to the Bishop Lavis Community Action Network, Abdul Karim Matthews.
Civic Education Officer with the Bishop Lavis Action Community. Thank you so much for joining us. Abdul, it's been a chaotic couple of days with the with a call to return to school. Minister Angie Motshekga has now indicated that schools will officially open for children on the 8th of June. We know this is not the case in the Western Cape. Children were expected to return to school on the 1st of June in the Western Cape. What is the position of the Bishop Labour's Action Community on the return to school in the Western Cape?
Um, Thank you very much to you and your viewers for the invitation. The position of the Bishop Labour's Action Committee is crystal clear on the reopening of schools. We reject the call to reopen the schools, and our reasons are fundamentally the following. The Western Cape is the epicenter for this pandemic at the moment. We have over 20,000 infections. The majority of those that have died because of this virus located in the Western Cape. It simply does not make any logical sense to reopen the schools at a time when we are still supposed to experience the peak of this pandemic. And so we are flabbergasted at the idea that the Western Cape believes that it should reopen the schools. But we extrapolate that our position also is similar to in terms of rejecting the National Minister of Education's call to reopen the schools on the 8th of June, because the reports are very clear that even at the national level, 70% of public schools nationally are not ready to reopen, and yet the National Minister herself is also arrogant in her contention that schools must open. So what appears to be a public spat between the DA and the ANC is actually not a public spat. Both political parties agree the schools must reopen. The only difference that they have is when. It's about the timing for that. And so no, there is no way that the Bishop Labour's Action Committee can allow the reopening of schools at the very time that we have and we are experiencing a spike in the pandemic.
Abdul, so yesterday morning, Bergville Primary was the scene of protest action. Tell us about that.
Well, look, we are located obviously in the Bishop Labour's area. We had our members at different sites in the area. And what has been confirmed for us at the number of schools in our location is that the schools are simply not ready. Most of the schools have not received personal protective equipment. They have not received actual training in how to conduct testing. Remember, you actually have to have training to conduct screening and testing. That's the job of a healthcare professional, not the job of an educational professional. So
Abdul, can I just ask you to pause there? You're saying that the teachers have, or at least the school staff, have not received training, that the schools are not in a state of readiness. This is contrary to what Debbie Schaefer, the MEC for Education in the province, is saying. She is insisting that schools are ready. What do you have to say?
Let me tell you something. Quite frankly, as far as I'm concerned, the MEC for Education in Western Cape, Debbie Schaefer, is a complete and total liar. Her politics is that of Trump. It's a question of whatever is being told to her, she completely ignores the lived reality. So let me explain to you something about a typical school in Bishop Labour's Barrowfield Primary. That school is broken into at least once a week. It has absolutely no security. Last year, it had a school population class size of 1 to 70. We had to protest at that school last year in order to get one extra teacher. The classes are still overcrowded because the typical class size is 1 is to more than 40 per classroom, whereas her teacher-to-pupil ratio at her schools that she is supposed to have political control over is supposed to be 1 is to 35. Now, forget about PPE, forget about testing, forget about all of that. Just think of one thing: social distancing. How in heaven's name is it possible for children located in a working class school to sit in a classroom and practice social distance? It is completely impossible, totally impossible. And so our view is that on a range of factors, Debbie Schaefer is actually saying that the only schools that are ready are the ex-Model C and private schools. There is not one working class school that is ready for the reopening of the school in 2020. Not one.
So going forward now, Abdul, what is the way forward for the return of children in the Bishop Labour's community? That's the first question. The second question is, Has the Western Cape Education Department engaged with civic organizations and parent communities such as yourselves?
Can I start with the second question first?
Yes, yes.
The Western Cape Education Department is known for its arrogance. They actually believe that they know what's best for the education of our children. And so we do need to make the comparison. We have all of these videos, for example, of schools that have indicated their readiness to reopen. For example, like Camps Bay, which sent through a video and you can see everything is nice and orderly. This is not the lived experience and the lived reality of a typical Cape Flats school located, let's say, in Bishop Lavis or in Langa. I've seen videos now of our children going back to school. They've got their masks on, and because they haven't seen each other in months, they're literally running to each other, hugging each other, and we are saying, no, 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 no. This will happen. And so the reopening of the schools simply means that the school itself will now become the new vector for the transmission of COVID-19. And what he's saying to the MSc, Debbie Schaefer, if one child and or teacher becomes infected as of the time they've instructed the schools to reopen, we will hold her responsible for that. We will hold Brian Schroeder, the head of education in the Western Cape, will hold him responsible. And we will go over their heads and we will hold the premier of the Western Cape Island, Wendy, primarily responsible for the fact that if any of our children or teachers get sick and or dies. Because you must remember, if we were so ready, and this is what I need to speak to your viewers about. If we were so ready, when they opened up at level 3 and the SMT, the senior management teams, went back to school, ostensibly to prepare the schools for the return of the students, more than 19 schools tested positive. Over 32 teachers were infected. In other words, the teachers have now become the new vector for the transmission of COVID-19. So if these schools were ready with PPE, with specialist training, all of that was in place, then Debbie Schaefer must answer this question. How did those teachers become sick? How did they become infected?
So, Abdul, the next step, are the parents going to continue not sending their children to school in Bishop Lavis?
Yes, the national shutdown action will continue until such time as the state complies.
Okay. Abdul, I wish the Bishop Lavis community and the Bishop Lavis Action community all the best in the weeks ahead. I truly hope that the action that you've taken will inspire other communities to take the same position. Our children are not test tubes. And the experiment, we cannot experiment the lives of our children when our schools are clearly not ready. All the best. And we hope to have you back here at Cape Town TV when the story unfolds further. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
What are the implications of COVID-19 for Africa's economy, and what should the continent do to ensure a healthy business environment after the pandemic? The following video from Voice of America gives answers to some of these questions.
For the past few months, the COVID-19 pandemic has been wreaking havoc around the world. What are your thoughts on what we are witnessing with this particular health crisis?
There's two sides to this that everybody is well aware of. On one side, it's the health-related issues, and then on the other side, the twin economic-related issues that we're dealing with, not just for things of today, but things that we're going to have to be dealing with in terms of a recovery across the board. And for the continent in particular, there's going to be a number of issues.
Very often, there is a tendency to turn to the international community when there is such crisis, whether it's in Africa or other parts of the world. But in this case, we see that the entire world is affected. So what can be done?
On the immediate side, we have to deal with the debt crisis. And I think there's a longstanding precedence for a moratorium on these or just refinancing a lot of the debt packages. Otherwise, we're going to be heading towards a default across the continent. And as we then look in the future, how do we deal with this? The old way of economic development, where essentially developing economies think about leveraging globalization, labor arbitrage, low-cost goods being manufactured on the continent to be sold internationally, that's not going to be the factor. I think you're going to find a lot of developed countries saying, we need to produce the goods in those countries. And I think that when we look at these domestic markets, there's some expertise that perhaps we're not recognizing. And I'm pointing towards the international aid architecture, the $150 billion of ODA, overseas development assistance, that's principally executed by international development organizations. And so we took it upon ourselves at the Milken Institute to do a little bit of this research in partnership with UBS Optimus Foundation. We looked at 500 global INGOs that are working with their donors to do a range of health capacity building and delivery of commodities.
And what were some of the findings?
Well, what we identified was you should be looking at these entities from a couple of different pillars. On one side, there's a relationship that these organizations have with their donors. Their donors sometimes actually prevent their capabilities from really handing off into a commercial sustainable enterprise. So I think there's a change that needs to happen from the donor to the recipient organization. That's one thing that we identified. The second thing we identified was, well, how much capital and what type of capital are they using? Is this a place for impact investors to partner with INGOs to build social enterprises? Now the issue is we need to make sure that we advance growth potential over and above the risk potential because of how slow the economies have gotten. And so looking at Basel regulations to allow capital to flow in to spur these type of activities, that's in the control of not just the Basel Committee in Switzerland, but also in the country's central banks to make sure that recovery happens appropriately.
So there are some projections that Africa's GDP could be reduced by 3 to 8% this year because of the COVID-19 crisis. What do you make of it? And if you were to kind of summarize it, what kind of strategies can we put in place to make sure that resilient economies are built to be able to withstand such crises in the future?
To be honest with you, I think the estimates are probably a little too early. We were not exactly sure how much it's going to really dip down. I've seen ranges as north of 10, 15% across the board. So with that being said, the strategy to come back, I think it's rooted in a couple of pillars. On one end, we actually realized that the bedrock of being able to build back better, if you will, is going to be an infrastructure strategy, that making sure that the foundation, there are a lot of infrastructure gaps throughout the continent, and to make local, regional, and international markets work more effectively. The second thing we probably need to realize is there is going to be effectively a certain number of industries that countries need to make sure that they have the ability to have in-country supply chains, but also on a regional basis as well. And I'm talking purely on the medical devices and pharmaceutical front. And then the third one is recognizing that vulnerable populations are the ones that are always hit. And so how do we have an inclusive economy such that people can be a part of their own resilience going forward? And that means thinking a little bit more holistically about the inequality that is pervasive throughout the continent in various different countries, that we bring individuals into the economy, more women into the economy, more youth into the economy, and being able to actually have the bottom of the pyramid, if you will, the strongest part of the economy.
Aaron Bithwood, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, Lenore.
Moving on to some international news, in a media briefing held by the World Health Organization on Monday, Executive Director of its Health Emergency Program, Dr. Michael Ryan, addressed the issue of the South moving to more relaxed levels of the lockdown. This is what he had to say.
Advice is pretty much the same as we have given across the whole pandemic for countries. In exiting lockdown, and we understand that countries in exiting lockdown are trying to put economies back on track, trying to bring social cohesion and social interaction back, and that's laudable. What we've asked for is a careful, stepwise approach, that each move is measured and the impact of the release of measures is measured in a way that we can see any increase in cases and, if necessary, reapply measures. We've also said that you have to replace lockdown with something else. And we've said consistently, I think, and Dr. Tedros has said this on many occasions, we need to have a strong, empowered community who are educated and participating in the response willingly, and are able to sustain the new normal, able to sustain the new behaviours, around physical distancing, hygiene and other things. We have to have a strong public health response, and I would commend South Africa in the way in which it's energised and mobilised its community health workers for both community education and surveillance, the way that the capacity to detect, test and trace cases has increased across South Africa through the use of mobile clinics and mobile teams, and that measured approach allows countries to come out of the so-called lockdowns and replace lockdowns with a more comprehensive set of public health and social interventions that will allow us to live in a more sustainable way with this virus until we reach a point where we have vaccines or other interventions that may eventually allow us to eliminate the virus. That, though, being said, is a difficult challenge for many countries, particularly in the south, where the concepts of social distancing, of hygiene, of surveillance are difficult to achieve, especially when many people live in poverty and in overcrowded and in conditions where those objectives are hard to reach. So we need the external world, other countries need to provide all support possible to, particularly to countries in Africa, to achieve those goals in terms of being able to support communities, support surveillance, and support the health system to cope. But we believe progress is being made. In Africa in general, we've seen a stabilization of the situation. However, in some countries, the disease continues to be on the rise, and therefore we have to be very, very careful and ever vigilant over the coming weeks and months.
That's all from the news front, but when we come back, we look at what's making news on social media.
Welcome back. You're still watching the Our City COVID-19 show. Minivans have been used in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. The following video from the National Health Department explains what these vans are doing. Let's have a look.
The NHLS, we've got two types of vehicles. We've got what we refer to as a screening and swabbing vehicle, and then we've got a vehicle that can screen, swab, and test. The plan for the vehicles is to ensure that we can go into communities, into hard-to-reach communities, and we place the vehicle outside, and we've got our dedicated team that goes and swabs and screens all the patients. Every mobile has a team. The team consists of a driver and two nurses. One nurse is dedicated to take all the patient details, contact tracing, and the other nurse does the swabbing. We have at least one mobile that will be fully functional in every district, and we have, in terms of hotspots like Gauteng and KZN, we have allocated more vehicles in Gauteng as opposed to Mpumalanga.
There are 3 forms that need to be completed during screening session. The first form will be the patient questionnaire, and the second form will be the contact list, where we need the details of the people that you have been in contact with. And then the third form will be a lab form, where you need the patient's details so that the patient can be contacted after the result has came out.
When the patient comes in, she sits upright. Then there's 2 swabs that we use. There's a nasal one, and there's also the oral pharyngeal one. The oral pharyngeal one that goes to the pharyngeal wall. So the first one, we go into the nose. Then we go in until we can meet the resistance, and you go out. Then you go straight and put it back into the container, you close, and you go to the oral pharyngeal, then you ask the patient to open up widely so you can feel the base of the wall of the pharynges, and go back to the where the pharyngeal at the back. Then you do the swab. You move left, right, and you go to the other one, left, right, and you go out. Then you put back the swab into the container, straight to the eyes in a cooler box. Then you start taking the history of the patient. The patient has some current illnesses, any chronic disease that you have to worry about. And then the specimen will be transported to the laboratory straight for testing.
Now let's take a look at the popular hashtags on Twitter today. Hashtag alcohol must fall. Are South Africans never satisfied? The country wanted the alcohol back, it's back, and now they want it to fall. Very confusing. Hashtag Blackout Tuesday. The Black Lives Movement has surged once again after the death of George Floyd at the hands of a police in the US. Now the music industry has planned to turn the 2nd of June into Blackout Tuesday, a day to press pause on usual business and turn towards fighting racial injustice rather. We'd like to know your views on burning issues during this pandemic, so we'll be posting burning questions on our Facebook page daily, Our City CT. You can also follow us on Twitter at Our City CT. That's it for me from Stephanie Piet. Please stay with us. After the ad break, Michaela Miller will be giving you information on resources and places of safety you can use during this period. Stay with us.
Welcome back. You're still tuned into the Our City COVID show on Cape Town TV, channel 263. If you are in need of any assistance, here are some organizations helping communities stay safe during this period. That's it from the Our City COVID-19 news show, but we will continue giving you the latest news on what's happening in Cape Town on our Facebook page at Our City CT, on Twitter at Our City CT. You can also get in touch with us via email on ourcity@capetowntv.org or call us on 021 448 0448. From me, Michaela Miller, and the Our City News crew, enjoy the rest of your week.